Today I'm here at the ATF Lounge, which is probably the coolest place on the planet, with the owner, Nephi.
Nephi and Oliva, my title here is Commander of Chaos.
Now Nephi is a former bounty hunter that created a concept for a lounge in Las Vegas. We're going to have hookah, alcohol, and guns, where you can go into real gunfights and shoot at each other. And it sounds pretty crazy, but you shoot at each other after getting proper training. It's actually a very safe process, and it's the thing that I recommend all of our staff do whenever we're in town, and it's pretty much the coolest thing you could probably do when you come to Vegas. I'd actually fly here just to check this thing out. But I'm pretty lucky to be with this guy. This guy has some of the coolest stories possible. Now, before I even met you, Lisa, who's my assistant, also a former Army cadet at West Point, she was telling me that I should hang out with you more because we both have similar mindsets, I guess in terms of like a little bit more business mafia kind of beliefs in terms of like how you run your company, how you run your operations. And I guess I would like to hear a little bit about your mindset to business and how you view business in general.
Well, I think the most important thing about having any business, number one, if it's been done before, I won't touch it. Like, it needs to be original. You know, people are like bugs and pesticide, right? If you use the same poison over and over again, eventually they develop an immunity for it. So by the time it makes it to college and courses for marketing and entrepreneurialism, it's so diluted that when you put it into practice, it doesn't work, because schools education is based on what worked in the past, not what's necessarily going to work in the future. So it's reverse thinking instead of thinking ahead.
I definitely agree. Field experience is king. I myself think that most of what I learned today was just from massive amounts of failures. But
absolutely.
A lot of education too. I've been in college for 15 years, last 15 years. I'm still in college now. I actually studied law at Harvard. I travel back and forth between Boston and Vegas quite often. But I'll probably be in school for the next 15 years because my dad was a university president of DeVry. But I
should never leave school, by the way.
Well, there's no
whether it's formalized or just the constant process of educating ourselves. And it's cheap. Everything's available. You know, there's no excuse for being uneducated.
Well, I love how you have a training aspect for what you do. Like throughout most of the week, you have trainings where you can train people on gun safety, gun management,
gunfighting.
I think that is cool. One of the cool things I think that you said with training at the party on Friday, because every Friday you have a gunfighting party where you fire salt pebbles at each other's heads. They wear hockey masks, bulletproof armor, and you also practice with a rabbit, which I love.
We call that the William Tell drill.
The William Tell drill. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, as far as with anything, whether it's gunfighting, boxing, any type of sport or skill set, self-confidence is probably the most empowering element to what you could do with anything. And if you develop self-confidence with, gunfighting, for example, that self-confidence does translate into every aspect of your life. So even though maybe you don't get in a gunfight and have to use your weapon for self-defense, that doesn't mean that training was wasted. It's not like insurance, right? The longer I pay for insurance, the more I want an accident, right? Because I don't want to feel like I got ripped off, right?
It reminds me of a guy who I know named Brandon Carter. He's a YouTube fitness guy. And when he was a kid, his brother was with him at an amusement park. And he told his brother, hey, I want to jump off that. And his brother said, why do you want to do that? He goes, well, because I'm scared to do that.
Exactly.
And so the brother was like, oh man, I guess I have to do that too, because I don't want you to grow up.
Confront your fears.
Yeah, and you learn a lot more from fear than anything else. I think that the thing about fear is that the adrenaline you get from fear is the same adrenaline you get from excitement. So if you could get that fear as that excitement energy, you could use that towards doing those risky moves in business, approaching the beautiful girls, taking action in life that you wouldn't take action, because the only regrets you have in life are those things you've never tried.
It's funny you say that about fear. Is I often, when I'm instructing in firearms, that if I'm a great instructor, I would say that about myself. I shouldn't be doing this. But I'm not as good an instructor as pain is, because it speaks to us on a very instinctive level. Fear memories are permanent. You know, if you're scared by a dog when you're a baby, you are going to grow up not understanding why you're afraid of dogs, but you will be afraid of dogs. Humans, though, do some really stupid things when they're in danger, because you only have 3 reactions, either fight, flight, or freeze. And freeze is probably the worst one you could have in any situation. And so the first time we encounter something stressful or a critical incident, it shouldn't be the first time. And that's why we do the gunfight simulations, what we call a training sport, because you have to get past the mindset issues, the managing your fear, your adrenaline, and then turning that into a positive energy. You know, sometimes people drown. They're full of adrenaline, right, while they're drowning. And then here comes the lifeguard to save them. And the lifeguard's like, calm down, sir. And if they don't calm down, they will let them drown. Otherwise, you lost 2 people. So we do have to learn to manage our fear. But we don't want to eliminate that fear. We want to learn to utilize it and welcome it as, hey, this is something, it's like cocaine right before you're going to do something that requires massive amounts of energy. That's just an example, not advocating at all for that, but you know, because a big concern in law enforcement is always somebody with who's on drugs, because it gives them an unnatural power. Adrenaline does the same thing, and that can be directed in a positive direction, or it can be directed in a negative direction. Our job as individuals is to manage our fear, not eliminate it. Is with gunfighting, which is probably one of the scariest things that you could engage in, you don't want to find out when that critical incident happens that your right hand starts flopping when you're terrified, right? I need that hand to shoot. You know, so part of what we do here, what we call intertrainment, is we've made very dangerous things exciting and fun, break it down into manageable skill sets that build on each other. Like you said about our training, what we do on the training level is demonstrated on Friday night gunfights, to where all those things get put together and you start testing yourself over and over again until you develop a comfortability. You know, my first time kicking a door in, I was terrified, right? I was shaking. Well, shaking's not good if you're shooting. It's really not good. Because you need 2 things, training and experience. And if you don't have either of those things, then your campaign is going to fall apart.
First of all, that's the coolest word I've heard in my entire life.
What?
The intratrainment.
Intertrainment.
I love that. You know, I created a YouTube channel where I wanted to be known as somebody who's really involved with infotainment, but I think the intratrainment. Intertrainment. That's a lot more accurate word, because what you're talking about is entertainment and educating people at the same time. I spent most of the last year.
Where do you learn the most from? It's the boring teachers who put you to sleep, or the guys that have jokes, they have stories, they have an entertaining personality. I'm also been a professional songwriter for a long time.
Oh yeah? Awesome.
If you want to practice your do, re, mi's on a piano, if you just run up and down those scales with your fingering and your technique, and you could do that for 10 minutes before you want to turn a gun on yourself, right? But if I put a blues track in the key of C and I start improvising the scales over that track, I could be there for hours. I will lose time as I'm going through that, but I am learning at twice the rate that I would be if I was just doing a mundane drill. What we want to do in anything that we do is accelerate our learning, accelerate our ability to retain information, and you do that by engaging people. So in that same light as we talk about business, and if you're selecting a business model and a marketing approach, you first need to have the right product, the right service. It's something that people need, and something that engages that person mentally, physically, and that does add a value. I'm not the kind of person who likes money for the sake of money. There's always, for me, a purpose. I mean, because money's just paper. But what is it used for? What is it designed to teach? What are people going to take away from it? There's a lot of businesses that our society could do without, that are just there to make money. Well, what do? I make money. Okay, you do nothing, in my opinion. Because money isn't happiness. And the same thing in business. I don't want to do things that I'm not personally engaged, because I'm not going to be a great instructor if I'm just halfway into what I'm doing. I want to obsess about it. I want to learn how I can better communicate my ideas to you, which is kind of interesting in the parallels in our businesses, is because when we first started doing Friday Night Gunfights and we were just random people from the audience going to shoot a moving target and shoot a small balloon off of a moving target's head, that's pretty advanced stuff, right? In the first times we were running it, about 50 people a week, maybe out of 50, I might get 2 people hit the balloon. Now every Friday night, I'm getting 3 times, 4 times as many people hitting the balloon. It's not because I'm pulling from a better demographic. It's because I'm getting better at translating what I know, so another person can not only understand but replicate it. And that's always the goal, is the transfer of information. That's the value proposition, is what am I giving you? We say on Friday nights that I have to tell you this is a scam. And everyone's like, whoa, what's he going to say to us? And I go, you came here to be entertained, but you are going to leave with some value, whether you want to or not. And what you take away from this will help you in your day-to-day life.
Somehow, we've accepted paper targets as the norm in firearms training. But it is the lowest form of firearms training you can do. It does not prepare you for things that move, react, shoot back. In law enforcement or military, they focus on scenario-based training. It's what-if scenarios. Somebody's holding somebody hostage, what do you do? Teaching you what to think. But we all know the value of teaching a person how to think is much greater than teaching them what to think. So how do we apply those true principles to training? That's chaotic-based training for us. You have no idea what's going to happen. You have to learn to solve problems very, very quickly. In this environment, which is deceptively deep as far as training goes, you've got left and right, which the barrels are designed to force you to work weak side, strong side, so that you don't develop a weakness on one side of where everything occurs.
How long have you lived in Vegas?
21 years.
Mm-hmm.
Time flies. Okay, no more phones. Pay attention to me, because this is how we get shot in the ass. We also want to point with the left hand and your thumb. That also engages the left side of your body. When you start firing, you're only pointing and forward. So we want that still in play. And that's going to engage all your eye-hand coordination. You're looking down one eye. Both eyes are open for this. If your grip sucks, tighten your grip. Your grip is opposite of what I told you. There you go. Now tighten it. When you fire, tight grip. Down to the ground. It's good. Did you see the benefits of having someone coaching you while you're doing it?
Crazy.
Or you'd go through 10 rounds,
Yeah.
and then your instructor take his earphones off and say, you suck.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of fixing it shot after shot.
Do you know what we teach, by the way?
Do what?
Do you know what we do?
Yes.
Yeah, do you? Well, because we believe in that same training philosophy. I don't know if you knew that.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, we teach courses that for years people would teach in a classroom, and we teach it out in the field. So we have the same belief. Yeah,
It's got to be relatable.
Yeah,
Not that you're fighting, but...
Yeah. No, but it is stressful as fuck.
He has a good term. What's that term again?
Entertainment.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you're in an adrenaline state, but you studied in a non-adrenaline state, you can't remember it. You draw a blank. whatever you learn while in the adrenaline state is what you can do in that state.
Entertaining,
Right.
in-field
All this
training.
space out there.
Intra-training.
Hand up higher.
I love that term.
Fill in that space. You want to be at attention and then lean in. Go! Tighten your grip. Don't throw the bullets. Gun up. Slow down. There you go.
Hey!
Good shooting, Tex. You got one shot left, dude.
So I was done with this muzzle flash, I freaked out. Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It's like weird, like when you your focus comes in for a second. And years of video games, I'm like, this is supposed to be easy. Where's my Cheetos?
Ready, Greg?
Yeah.
Go. Tighten. Oh, when he's going away, don't take the shot. You're empty. Good job, Nick.
All right, thanks.
Just sort of maintain this.
Yeah,
as
but
I'm
you
moving.
don't want to skip. You want to smooth, because if you skip, your gun is going to do the same thing.
So like this.
Yeah, you can move like that, or you can stutter step. Just don't cross your feet.
Show me again.
Okay, you can move this way, foot to foot.
Like that.
Yeah, or you
Okay.
can come a little wider if you feel comfortable, but the wider the stance, the more stable you are.
Okay.
Go! Keep a tight grip. Keep your eyes on him. Don't take your eyes off when you're firing. Gun up.
Oh, damn.
Done.
All right, cease fire.
Yep.
Gun down. Oh, a little stressful, isn't it?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks.
Especially as it pertains to being aware of self-defense issues. And not anybody has ever complained about mixing in a little teaching with the entertainment side of it.
Yeah, I remember you saying that speech on Friday, and that stuck with me. That was pretty memorable. It was very sharp. I was curious because for me, what got me really interested in the entertainment aspect of education was that I was trying to think about how we could get seminars from like 400 people to 4,000 people to 40,000 people, and I was thinking, well, if our guys could, if you look at the concerts or large music events, that attracts people. There's crowd surfing, there's entertainment, people are engaged, they follow through.
Piggybacking.
Yeah, what inspired you to get the entertainment aspect and training aspects combined together?
Well, the objective, our mission statement is to prepare people to defend themselves and the Constitution. That's our mission statement. So examining methods and approaches to that objective is how do we ensure the maximum concentration of teaching while we have that exposure time, while they're under our influence. I think you're looking at that concert analogy as a model for replicating.
Yeah, figuratively and for me, literally.
But on the other end of it, for example, if you spend 2 years and 20,000 rounds of ammo at a paper target range versus 2 weeks and 2,000 rounds of ammo here, the value of your training is going to be much higher here because what you're doing is in the context of what you're preparing for. How is paper targets going to prepare you for shooting against a live person? It is not. It is contextually irrelevant. And paper targets are the lowest form but most highly accepted form of training. But it does not prepare you. I mean, you've shot at a range before, right? How different was it for you shooting at a human being and then being forced to focus on a very small...
A lot more difficult to hit that target.
Yeah, but so if you can master that skill set in the context of where the application exists, then that value is much, much higher. So we have to balance whether, yes, as a business, we want maximum profitability. That means higher volumes, higher margins. But we have to find that happy medium to where we don't fall into the trap of diluting the experience for each customer. So in order to expand that, I'm going to give you less because I'm giving more of that to them and to them and them. So my profit goes up, but their value goes down. We have to avoid those situations if we want to maintain the integrity of what we're doing. Like my hookah lounge, people say, "Oh, this place is phenomenal. It's great. It's love the decor. You should expand." I'm like, well, then my hookah would start to taste like camel shit, right? Because now I have less quality time to put into each customer. I would rather have a steady flow of regulars that I don't have to go out and spend marketing on, that just come here because they get taken care of. There's more margin in not having to constantly acquire customers and keep that flow going than there is if you rely on an existing business that is profitable, that doesn't require high expenditures and high pressure sales because we've got to make our nut this month.
I totally agree. I haven't spent a dime on advertising, paid advertising.
Us either.
And if you look at my advertising costs, it's usually cameras. So you create more free content to people and just captivate them to come to us. And then get good word of mouth. That's our biggest thing, getting people to refer people to us.
We don't do any advertising at all other than create videos. Our video from Fox 5 has done has done 35 million views and is currently being considered for an Emmy.
Really?
It is the #1 news feature in Fox LA history.
I got to get the link for that and check that out.
No.
I was shocked. That's why Fox LA takes my, I call hey Nephi, how you doing? I'm like, well, you answered the phone, because we still have the #1 feature. And that includes Trump, any celebrity, anything they've ever done. Nothing did bigger number of views than Gun Games on Fox LA. It took them from the #6 position in social media market share in LA, second biggest market in the country, to the #2 position. One video.
That's amazing.
And people still come in and go, hey, you're the machine gun guy. I see you on there making the machine gun. And because if you can engage a person, then you don't need massive distribution networks that overcome, quite frankly, shitty products. If you need a person to come in and sell your product, then you probably don't have the best product.
What have you taken from your previous work, previous jobs that have been applicable to you today for your education to become a business owner and create something like this?
Well, first of all was identifying what need am I filling, in business or in society. And that was that, in martial arts, if you want to learn to fight, you spar. Well, that's a true principle. Where's the sparring with guns? There's so many people that carry a gun every day and think that they're magically in the club, that they're going to be the ones that survive. And that isn't true. It doesn't happen that way. Lots of good guys have bad things happen to them and they don't come out on top. That's because mathematically they're not ahead of the curve. They're behind it. You need training and experience. And if the criminal has experience, but that hand against your hand of nothing, mathematically you've already lost that encounter. Just the same as having a driver's license doesn't magically make you a good driver. I mean, you have a driver's license, but you're working against the fact that you're also Asian, right? So no guarantees, right?
Yeah, I'm waiting for my test to be able to drive itself from start to finish. That's
right?
my goal.
Because you're either spin drifting or you just hit everything, right? There's no in between, right? Yeah. So having a permit, having a license doesn't necessarily mean you're proficient at something. In fact, having a degree doesn't mean that you're going to be successful in business. It doesn't mean you're going to be any good at anything.
Sure, absolutely. I know my dad's secretary graduated from Harvard Business School. And although she was smart, she never considered creating an entrepreneurial venture. The skills that you learn are mostly from the standpoint of being usable, but without the execution of in the real world reference experiences, you're not going to really know how to apply those skills. That's why I like your great analogy that you repeat all the time is shooting at a paper target versus shooting a moving target. I think it's a great analogy to mastery for pretty much any skill set in life of any kind. I think it's very cool.
You'll fight the way you train, and if you're not training at all, then you're not going to do very well. For firearms, training, since the beginning of firearms has largely been training out of context, and then thinking that is going to somehow plug in and operate the same. Like, hey, sit still, I'm trying to shoot you, right? It's not how it works. It's very fast.
Some of the exciting things I saw also was how when you run out of bullets, the fight doesn't stop, just like in real life. So last time I was here, I saw a guy knock over a giant barrel, smash it on top of a guy's head, and they were wrestling to pop the other guy's balloon on his head. And I thought that was pretty cool. Also, what got me interested in seeing that was Lisa told me that she's my assistant, but she was wrestling with my hip hop coach, Drew, until she could pop his balloon. And I heard that there's like heavy metal music, there's you firing a machine gun, there's
stressors,
smoke bombs. And it's pretty exciting, and that's a huge fan of action movies. That's like my biggest pastime. I thought that was like cool to actually experience that live. And
do you know how many movies have made my job more difficult?
Yeah, how so?
Because they put the gun so it's in the shot, right? So they bring it up here, and so that you can see they have a gun. Otherwise, you're not going to see it in the shot. So then we get guys coming in here, and I'm like, stop! This is not the movies. Like, stop. If you're in a fight, you keep your hands up, right? Yeah. What happens if you put them down? You get punched in the face, right? So you keep that gun up, and you don't put it down for any reason. There's a lot of things that we emulate and that we learn wrong. And I spend a great deal of time correcting a lot of those things. Number one inhibitor of effective firearms training is safety. Right, because you're too busy worried about handling a dangerous tool that it's getting in the way of you actually learning to master that. So you have to take the lethality out of the training, which is why the non-lethal training ammo is such a great thing. And we're the first civilian organization to have a distributorship for this restricted use ammo. So we're learning things constantly because we've taken the safety element away. So we don't have to worry about that as much. Now we can master the skill set, so when we reintroduce the lethal platform, we have the skill set to do it safely.
Awesome. So what are your plans for the future in terms of this business?
This is the next UFC. If you're a gun guy and you don't have any hand-to-hand skills, then you're always going to go to your gun, which is not always appropriate, right? And if you're a hand-to-hand guy, somebody with a gun is going to quickly just end your career. So if you don't have that balance of both, it's Tim Kennedy, he's retired from UFC, was also in Special Forces. I think he was last SHOT Show, he said the tactical community and the MMA community need to start having a conversation, right? Because what's the next logical progression of combat sports? Guns and MMA.
That'd be pretty awesome.
It's the only way to top it. But to me, that's the only true fighter, is that you have something on both sides of that. What happens if your weapon goes dry? You can't call timeout. In fact, I'm waiting for your weapon to go dry or for you to have a malfunction, because when I act upon you, I want no response.
Yeah, your gun gets jammed, you got to have a way to survive.
Your gun gets jammed, I am going to finish that fight. I'm not going to, I'll wait a minute for you to finish, get your gun back in point.
I remember that happened last week with, I think it was a boyfriend-girlfriend couple. And that girl's gun kept getting jammed. And she wouldn't want to grapple or fight because she didn't have the preparation. She froze. So are you planning to train people also on that side of hand-to-hand combat in addition to the guns? Yeah. Are you doing that now?
Yes.
You are?
A lot of that, you find out what is relevant when you take MMA stuff, for example, like a rear naked choke. We don't ever recommend a rear naked choke because you're allowing their arms to still get into their pockets, manipulate their weapon. You need to tie up the things that are a problem, and their hands are a problem. If they're right-handed, you want to tie up that right hand because it's going to keep them from getting to a weapon, getting to your weapon, getting to other tools that can turn the tide on that fight. You don't realize those things until you get in it and everything just falls apart, because there's teaching a person what to think and teaching a person how to think. And typical firearms is teaching people what to think. But it's not what you need for fighting.
Do you have any inspiring books or movies or TV shows that have inspired you as well?
Ooh, that's a tough one, man, because I'm a tough candidate for being impressed. I think a lot of what I find in what's available, especially on lines of firearms, not impressed because it misses the element of sparring. On the lines of business, there have been some books, Stephen Covey.
My favorite as well, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah, and building a win-win scenario, that the only deal to be had in business is a win-win. Anything less than that is technically a lose-lose. You're dealing with basic human respect and building relationships. Like, I would never have an employee here that I didn't like. The second I stop liking you, like, your ass is on the chopping block, right? Because you're ruining my experience in being here, and guess what? It's my place, so one of us is going to go. It's definitely going to be you. Enjoying what you do. People that inspire other people usually are the ones most passionate about what they do. And if they lack passion and just doing a job or just trying to pay the bills, they're not going to get very far with it.
You also have an entrepreneurial wife who has a clothing store in the Art District. How does you both being entrepreneurs affect your conversations, discussions in life?
We have to manage that, and she's not my wife.
Or your girlfriend.
She'll see this, think I'm getting ahead of myself.
Okay.
We do, between us, we have 2 businesses, but that's something we both enjoy and are passionate about, and she fills in a lot of the areas that I lack here and vice versa. And we enjoy talking about it, so it's not like a chore to have to talk about business, but then we struggle with trying to find time to just do us, because I've been on that side where I was single for a long time, and I'm very, very happy not to have that massive task in front of me. I found a great girl, and I'll do everything I can to make that work and hang on to it. I think, like in the movie Hitch, it's not about just the conquest. That is fun and exciting, but at the end of that, you want to have some substance. And on a surface level, you don't want everything that she found attractive about you to be a lie. So find something that you're good at, and be the best at that. And you only need like one thing. I'm fortunate because at a piano, I can take them on an emotional journey real easy. But then at the same time, when we're walking around somewhere in a mall, she definitely feels safe, right? So, those are 2 things, when, you may need one, and being articulate, being a good listener. I was married for 5 years, and I had a tough time with her. But at the end of that process, I learned patience, I learned forgiveness, I learned sacrifice. I learned a lot of the things that I think today make me a good choice for a relationship, not necessarily a good choice for, a bang session on Friday night, right? It's just a matter of what you're looking for. If you're looking for something enduring, well, then you need some real substance. If you're just looking to close the deal, get in and get out, okay, that's fine. That's going to last as long as the encounter lasts, but, if that's what you want, that's what you want. But me personally, I wanted more substance. I still needed the same things to attract that person. It just wasn't a trick. I became the things that I thought would be attractive to other people, and that was who I really was. How many times you hear a woman say, you know, we got married and after a year he just changed. Like, no honey, he didn't change, you just finally met him for the first time, right? Because he was so focused on the objective, and why I tell women, don't ever tell a guy what you're looking for in a guy, because then he's gonna start emulating those things, and then you'll be like, oh, he's everything I look for. And then you get with him, and then all of a sudden he clicks back to who he really is. Like, this is not the same person, and psh, now you just wasted a year of your life, you know, by not just being straight ahead with, hey, if she doesn't like you as you are as a person, well, screw her. Don't change for anybody. Find someone that's into that.
Yeah, I think most of our clients are struggling with the identity of who they are, and the identity level change becomes the process of really just finding out who at the core they really are and who they want to be.
But you have to explore to find that.
That's true. I recommend a lot of people travel or just do things they've never done before until they can really find out what they really like. A lot of people don't even know what their real passions are.
You have to be willing to be honest with someone, even if the answer is no. I can tell you how many times I've been on a date, and I was, you know, when I was in the game, it was a brutal experience for women, because as soon as I realized there was something in that relationship or in that personality that wasn't going to lead to marriage, even if it meant giving up sex, right? Well, I have that in between, right? I could cut it off, just like, and I don't tell them why I break up with them. Why? Because then they're going to guard that the next time they go out, right? If you're going to get broken up with for who you are, then get broken up with for who you are. But I didn't give them that clue. Like, why don't you just tell me why? Is it not important? The answer is no, right? That's it. You don't need to know my reasons, because you're just going to argue with me and try to change my mind. And I don't say yes or no unless I absolutely have meant yes or no. And that just keeps me from wasting a lot of my life. You know, when I was younger and I had more time, now I'm getting older, and I feel like I better take my time a little more seriously, or I'm going to, you know, I'm going to run out of cool things to attract women with, and then I'm forced to be who I am. And if that's a shitty person, well, then the quality of people I'm going to attract is going to really tank.
Well, I think you're a great guy, and thanks so much for this interview. It's been an awesome experience. Cheers.
I appreciate it, brother. So if you're lucky enough to be in Vegas and you want to try an absolutely exciting experience, Las Vegas Gunfights, ATF Lounge, absolutely #1 firearms experience in Vegas. Only place you can shoot a bad guy with rubber bullets or go hand to hand with your friends. Definitely one of those things you want to try because you'd absolutely not forget it. And then of course we have the Hookah Lounge to decompress you afterwards, do some pre-game, to go into the clubs. Definitely a good place to wind up or wind down. So Las Vegas Gunfights, lvgunfights.com.
I'll do full face protection. It's just a little bit tougher to breathe and stuff.
Is that?
Good way, it's comfortable. Is that good? Yeah, that's good.
So are we going to go until one shot or multiple shots, or how's this going to work?
The other person.
I'm just a very busy guy, so I prefer not to be beat up, but can be if it is more fun. I guess if it, you know,
so basically,
for missing
Full
out.
contact's always the most fun.
Yeah, so
question to watch.
how that works, Owen, is that we shoot at each other, and we run out of bullets. The fight doesn't stop until the balloon pops. We have to like attack each other until we get the balloon.
For the balloon?
Yeah.
Alright, let's do it.
Round 1. Fight!
Yeah. Well, you get an A for aggression and a D for life expectancy. I think we need to run another balloon.
You win. Round 2. Fight!
Defend yourself! No! Check your safety!
Fire stick. Clear it. Get back in the fight. Don't just wait around. Go make something happen. Oh, ceasefire. 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 One, you're dead.
You get it?
Yeah, one shot, one kill. Okay, we got it. One more. Best of 3.
You win. Final round. Fight!
Go, go. Nice. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner!
You win.